There we go. So once again, I'm Arlen Hall from Bike Eternity, and I'm so glad I have the opportunity to talk to you
Nice.
about a really cool place to ride your bikes this next year. And I don't know. So I got a phone call from a Joe Garcia. Any of you know Joe? Some of you?
Tina, we can't hear you.
Yeah,
Oh.
I know Joe just via like phone calls and emails because he knows one of the guys, Paul, that we ride with often. So
Oh,
Joe
that's
was trying to put it together and then it just was too much, and that's why he called you.
Yeah, and I led I think I led one tour with Joe actually on the Trace last year, or maybe it was this year. I've done it so many times that I don't know how the last time I rode. I think it was this year that I rode with Joe. So I'm pretty open to how we want to proceed tonight. We could just go right to questions. Let me tell you a little bit about Bike Eternity, what we do, and then maybe we can go into questions and we can go from there. Okay, so Bike Eternity's been around for about 8 years. It's my wife's business. And she started about 8 years ago when we moved to Montana from the greater Boston area. I was in the outdoor industry. No, I'm sorry, I was in the IT industry for 30 years before I decided to move to Montana and kind of start new with a new career. So I entered the outdoor industry. I have a small business there. I went to work for Adventure Cycling in Missoula, Montana, as their tours director. I was a guide for them for a number of summers as a nice thing to do when I wasn't working. And I eventually became their tours director and organized their bicycle tours for 7 years. Most of the itineraries that they do now, I had something to do with, either designed them or provided the impetus to have them designed. And then I moved to REI. I did 2 years at REI, maybe 2.5 before the pandemic hit. And I was in charge of their worldwide cycling program, expanding that. And when they shut down travel, they shut down all of their travel, never went back into their international travel. And I never left Missoula. So I got through the pandemic in Missoula and decided that, my wife decided that we should grow the business a little bit. We were only doing 1 or 2 trips a year, one in Europe and then one in the US. We both worked full-time other places. And then after the pandemic, we decided to put a little bit more effort into it. And we mostly do custom trips in the US. I've ridden, well, almost 300,000 miles, mostly in the US. And so I've been to almost every place. I can actually name where I haven't been, easier than where I have been. And so we're just leveraging that to provide small group custom trips for groups such as yourself. And we only run about 4 or 5 a year so that we can just focus on those. And otherwise I can enjoy my semi-retirement, which I am. So, I hire guides to do most of the work for us. I'm usually one of the guides that come on the trips. I will be for you. And I really like very specific spots to travel in the US. Death Valley is my favorite. Alaska is high on the list. Bryce Canyon and the Natchez Trace. Yep, those are the ones I really like the most. And I've done many of those more than 6 times. So Joe called me up. He says, how can we do the Natchez Trace in a shorter amount of time and stay in hotels? And I said, well, it's really hard to do because hotels are at least 10 miles trace.
It's Missouri to Nashville.
So the Natchez Trace is really a greenway for non-commercial traffic. And so there are no services directly on the trace except for around some of the major cities. And then otherwise you're in a pretty remote area. so I told Joe this is what I would do. And then, yeah, put together what I thought was my favorite places on the trace and then presented it to you in that document that I sent. Questions for me so far?
Oh, yeah, I
Uh,
think we do have a few questions. Maybe we should just all go around. Raleigh, do you want to start? We can just kind of go around.
Well, yeah, sure. Hi, Joe, is it?
Arlen,
Arlen, I'm sorry.
that's right.
Um,
Joe is the other guy.
Okay, right. So you cut out right when you said it's really hard to stay at hotels because they are something apart.
Sure. So the Natchez Trace is a greenway. Most of the services are off the Natchez Trace. And you're right in a pretty rural part of Mississippi, Alabama, and Tennessee. So you do have to usually drive at least 10 miles to get to hotels that are nearby. And you often, the quality of those hotels are sometimes questionable. So you have to sometimes drive even further to get to a hotel that you want to, that would be reasonable to stay at. There are some really nice places to stay on the Trace, and then whenever we're near a larger city, then there's never a problem finding a good hotel. And the same would apply for restaurants. I remember a couple of times I've been on the Trace, small group with just a couple of my friends, and we know of this funky little oil delivery place that has the grandmother in the back room cooking burgers on a grill, and she will not tell you what she puts in them. They are awesome, but yeah, I don't know what's in them. Maybe squirrel, possum, something like
I was
that.
gonna say possum is supposed to be really tasty.
Yeah.
I'm down. MJ's like, no, I'm down. Let's try it.
No.
No, thank you.
Yeah, I didn't include that one on the list.
I hear it tastes like chicken though.
Everything
Well,
tastes like chicken.
Well, if you fry it, everything is going to taste like chicken, or actually, it'll taste fried. But for me, the South has a lot of really great cuisine that's not fried, but it's different. Like, frog's legs, snake, gator, all good. They don't taste like chicken because they're not fried.
So we would be riding on the trail, and then to get to the hotel, would we ride to the hotel, or would you guys shuttle us to the nearest hotel in places where the hotels are not close to the
Yes.
trail? Is that what you're saying?
Yes. So the way I divided up this itinerary so that you could cover the whole Trace in sections is that we'll ride so far, and at the end of that ride day, we're going to be at an overlook or a place that we could set up a snack table or something like that. And the riders come in, we load the bikes on the van or in the trailer, and then we'll shuttle to the hotel and to dinner if it's not within walking distance of where we're going to have a hotel. Now, a few places like French Camp, which is a really neat place. It's a historic site. It's an old, currently still a school, but we're staying in a series of cabins that, but it has a restaurant on the property, and they're older buildings, and it's a really nice place. It's historic, and it's 100 feet off the Trace. So in that case, we'll be right there. We'll ride there. In the case of Ridgeland, Mississippi, we'll ride there. So I would think there's there's 2 or 3 places where we'll ride to the hotel, but the rest of them will have at least a 10-mile ride, if not 20 miles to get to. For instance, to get into Muscle Shoals, we'll have to definitely shuttle there. So the idea is to shuttle, and then the next day we'll shuttle you back to the Trace, but at a different location, so we can skip a section that we that I needed to skip so we could keep the miles in the range that we want, which was 35 to 45.
Yeah,
Oh,
Raleigh,
that's it?
when we talked to Joe Raleigh, we had talked to, he said that it wasn't safe to be basically riding, or Arlen said it wasn't safe to get off the trace and then ride to the hotel.
There's
So
like
Yeah,
no
'cause
bike lanes.
The
Yeah.
rural country roads with people who are not used to having cyclists on those roads. So,
Yeah.
and there are no shoulders, and the line of sights are really terrible because they're rolling. And so just not a place that I would want to ride to if I didn't. I wouldn't want to ride those roads if I didn't have to.
Yeah,
Got it.
Lisa,
And then-
Lisa, look at the itinerary. It's 45, 45, 52, 38. It's not
Oh,
all
okay,
like 40 miles.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then Lisa, I think Arlen said that if people wanted to go longer,
Uh-huh.
on a certain day, then, I'm looking at, I can't find my itinerary that I just had.
Yeah, we can-
That
we-
you could
You can do it if
ride
you wanted.
extra.
Absolutely.
Okay, that's good to know.
Absolutely. As long as we didn't have a long shuttle to where we wanted to go. If you wanted to ride really fast, aggressive, get out ahead, we will talk about each route every day, and we can make decisions on that day of what the group would like to do and where the right
great.
spot would be to stop. No problem.
Okay, great. That sounds great.
Once you're on the trace, you can't get lost. It's just a matter of finding you where you are.
Yeah,
And it's
just-
it's one continuous road.
yeah. No, there's really no hills, I hear. No elevation gain.
Unless the last 2 days has a couple of climbs, but they don't seem any worse than Torrey. I think Arlen said there was an 8% grade for maybe half a mile,
Oh,
so
okay.
maybe it's like the wall.
The wall, yes.
Most of the hilly
Looks
climbing
beautiful.
will be in Tennessee. In fact, pretty much after you cross the border into Tennessee, you'll notice a definite difference in the terrain.
Okay, cool.
When we're down in Mississippi, I would probably say it's flat. It's not. It's so gradual of a gain that it really won't bother you. It's not quite trail riding,
Gains
but
don't
it's
bother me.
Yeah,
not quite trail
there-
riding, but it's pretty close. Except when we come off the trace, and we do have a place where we can come off the trace in the south, and then it will get hilly there as you get closer to the river. It does get pretty steep. There's one day we were going to go up to the Windsor Ruins, which you definitely shouldn't miss, and that's a climb to get up there. And it back in the day when there was less timber, you could see the river from where we would be at Windsor Ruins. You can't do that now because the trees, of course, have grown in.
Okay, thank you.
And that's the
What day is that? The
that's
Windsor Ruins.
yeah, that's day one.
Oh,
or
it's day
two.
one.
Day two. Once we leave Natchez, it's that day, which should be day two.
Oh, Windsor Ruins before arriving in Port Gibson. Okay,
Yeah. Mhm.
cool.
On that day, we ride on the trace quite a bit, and then we'll come off. We don't have to, but we come off, and there's definitely some nice historic cultural sites to see there.
Mhm.
I would recommend it. Most people that I know I've brought there really appreciate it, both riding through the campus of Alcorn State and its historical significance, and riding to the Windsor Ruins, which is an old plantation home that burned down, I think the first year that it was finished, but and those two sites are connected historically together.
And Arlene, what is the weather at that time of year up there?
Yeah, so that's a great question. The nights will be in the 50s, and the days will be at least 75 to
Oh, wow.
85.
Really?
Wow. Wow.
So-
This is end of March?
In early April?
Early April, yes.
Hmm.
And the humidity will be high too, and it could rain. I've had trips there where it's rained 3 out of the 7 days or 8 days, and I've had days trips there where it was the most spectacular, beautiful blue skies every day. So it's the best time to ride the Trace is late March through April, and then first week of May. After that, the humidity gets to be too intense, especially if you're not used to humid weather.
Yeah, well, we're getting used to it out here with climate change.
Where are you located?
San Diego.
Oh, yeah. Yep, you're right. I'm in
Okay.
Ohio at the moment, and I don't like it. I grew up here. I remember the humidity, and I don't like it. But I'm here for a while. I live in Montana in Missoula, and the relative humidity hovers around 25%.
Okay, so I have a question about day one. So, because to me it looks like day one we're in Ridgeland for 2 days. Can you explain that on the
Yeah, I
itinerary?
can
It wasn't
explain
very
that. So
clear.
on day one, we're going to pick you up at the hotel that we're going to meet you in the morning. We're going to drive the 1.5 to 2 hours to Natchez. We're going to do a shakedown ride around Natchez, visit Antebellum home, have lunch, and then check into our hotel. And then we'll go out to dinner together. We'll do kind of an orientation that evening, but that day is a chance to ride around the city of Natchez and kind of take in what that culture and also the historic sites that are around there, and take a tour of a plantation home if you like. I did 3 in one day, and that was too many. One was really good, so it gave me kind of context for what that area was like, how important the port of Natchez was during the pre-industrial revolution, and its significance to the Natchez Trace as well.
Okay, so day one is we're staying the night in
So you'll
Ridgeland.
Yeah,
I'm
so you'll fly
confused on that.
to Ridgeland the night before,
Okay,
and you'll stay that night, and we'll
Yep.
meet you in the morning.
and then day two is in Port Gibson.
Yeah, either that or Vicksburg, depending on how we'd like to define that day. On day two is when we actually are riding on the Natchez Trace. We'll visit a Native American village in the beginning of that trip, right before the Trace, and then we'll get on the Trace, ride up through Port Gibson, and depending on our group size, we'll either stay in Port Gibson at this B&B that's there. They have a limited number of people that they can take, and if not, then we'll just shuttle 25 miles, I think, to Vicksburg and stay there instead.
Okay.
Okay.
So that was another question. Right now we have 8 people, but not everybody is sharing. Like right now, Raleigh wouldn't, he's single, and then I'll be single too. So I know the price increase is a little bit more. You didn't include that. I'm assuming all the prices were double occupancy.
They are, and until I book the hotel and get the group rate, I won't know what the single occupancy rate will be. But you can
Okay.
think about $500,
Okay.
not
So
more
I
than
know
that.
Raleigh might find a roommate between then and now, but I'll probably be solo on that. So I know you probably need that for making the reservations.
Yeah, so what I usually do on the hotels, which are the easiest ones to make, is I book the maximum, assuming a couple of single supplements. And then I shrink it down when we get closer. So the one that's the tricky one is French Camp, because of their room arrangements, but I think I grabbed 12 beds, and some of those are in single rooms. So I think
Yeah, and if we need to share some, that's fine.
Okay.
I'd rather, I'm like.
Okay, yeah,
sleeper,
so when you sign up and pay your deposit, there's a question on there whether you want single or double. Just choose the one that you'll need probably. and we can make adjustments as we get closer.
Okay, and you would like the deposit when? Because we have 8 for sure people that are willing to
We're-
pay
yeah,
now.
We're
so.
trying to get 2, maybe 3 more, but, so we wanted to know, when is the latest that someone could join the trip?
Yep, so that's a great question. So I would say by December,
Okay,
that's 3 months ahead.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's more
That's
than
good.
reasonable.
That's good.
Yeah,
that's
so
fine.
I think I put in, there is a written agreement that somebody in your group will execute on your behalf with us. And I think I put in here. So, we talked about, there's different per person rates, but depending on how many people you have. So,
mhm,
and I was only going to provide 2, but I provided 3. And that'll give you some more flexibility. So it's 6 to 7, 8 to 9, and 10 or more. And the cheapest, less expensive rate is 10 or more, of course, and that's $23.99. And I said I would like to set the final rate at. I think I'd like to at least get enough to say this is a go by September 15th. And by the end of December, the 29th, we'll set that final rate to either be the 8 to 9 or the 10 to 13
okay.
on who you have. That seem
That gives
reasonable?
us some time. Yeah,
I-
that's great. And then Arlen, you'll be coming, obviously, and is your wife gonna be on the trip too?
Yeah, so that remains to be seen. Kind of decides at the end. She's so much fun to have, I tell you. She's actually from New Orleans, so she even lives that area.
Oh.
So we're trying to work that out. So we have a 16-year-old at home who's a junior. So we kind of balance that. We tend not to both go on the same trip so we can handle our parental responsibilities. And
Mhm.
but sometimes, one of our friends step up and we both go. So I would like her to go. I'm really encouraging her to go. But it will depend on what her schedule is like. I was thinking if she doesn't go, then I would ask Joe Garcia to come along because I've led with him. He is capable. I liked him as a co-leader. We worked together for a trip for adventure cycling. That's what we did together. And so I might ask him to come along.
That would be good.
Yeah.
Yeah, too.
Yeah. So, but there'll be an experience, myself and an experienced guide. Well, I am too. So,
I think,
I should mention, we do prepare lunch on the road for you. So, because as there's no hotels on the trace, there's also no restaurants. So we prepare a healthy lunch. It's typically some type of salad, sometimes with pasta, or orzo or something like that, with fresh fruits and vegetables, as well as some kind of sandwich if that's what you want, or a wrap or something like that. The lunches are pretty good, if I say so myself. So we prepare all those lunches for you daily. And we also take your dietary preferences into account as well at the same time. And then breakfasts are at the hotel or the B&B, and then dinners are out at a local restaurant. And we try to find a non-chain restaurant in the community in which we stay.
perfect.
What about like nutrition during the ride? Is that something we bring or that you provide?
So if you have something specific that you really like, you should bring that. We do have some kind of electrolyte mix that we bring. We also have something sweet and something salty that we put out for snacks. And if you have a preference that it's in the mainstream, then we'll provide that for sure. I like for snacks. Well, my favorite snack is bananas with peanut butter on them. You know, cut bananas or apples, but mostly bananas. That's my favorite. And it usually has a nut on the top as well. But we'll have pretzels, some energy bars, like some kind of electrolyte mix. It depends what it is, depending on the time of year and what we buy pre-season for that. And it's always mix yourself so that you can put it in the proportion that you like to have it. And then if it's a really cold day, you can expect something like hot tea and coffee on a break, and but always water, fresh water, and yeah, usually chips of some sort. We usually put a snack out near the end of the ride, and it's usually, well, that time of year, strawberries will be in season down there, and so watermelon is a little early, but probably do that too. The beauty about the Southeast is that all the produce that I have to wait till July to eat in Montana, I can eat in March in the South. So comes right out of Louisiana. So so that's kind of the basic snacks we provide. But if you have, you know, every once in a while we have Luna bars kind of thing. We usually try to have some kind of energy bar. But if you have something you really like, that it's a must for you, you should bring it. And I do have a post-ride powder drink from Cliff, I think, as well. And we'll have that as well. So if you want a post-ride, I don't use them, so I don't know what they are really. I know they come in chocolate. That's about all I know. And if you guys like to drink chocolate milk at the end of a ride, that I can provide as well. So what we do is, as we get closer, I send out a little survey to everybody on the ride, and I ask those kinds of questions. What's your post-ride drink? What do you like to eat for lunch? What are your dietary restrictions, or what do you really like to eat for lunch? And we ask those kinds of questions, and we kind of pull it all together, and we can meet every dietary need for sure, pretty easily.
I think we just have one vegetarian, no vegans at this point.
Yeah.
We have no squirrel, some anti-squirrel eater, no game eaters.
Oh, squirrel!
Nope.
The squirrel never hurt anybody.
No
Yeah,
fried possum.
If it's
No
ground
possum,
up,
no
you-
deer,
you don't even
nothing,
know.
nothing that lives in the woods.
There's bacteria filled.
So, hey, Arlen, I think that September 15th deposit's not going to be a problem for everybody.
Okay.
Maybe if you can send MJ the link, we can start to pay
Yeah.
now.
Yeah, I finished
And-
it up today, so I can send that
Okay.
out to you. Mhm.
So it's
Yeah.
approximately $500, right?
It's 350.
Okay,
Oh,
even
that's
better.
reasonable.
Oh. Okay.
So, and then we'll figure out right now, like I said, we have 8, we might have 9, 10, 11 as we get closer, but that
Yeah.
gives us a little bit of leeway. Also, we
Yeah.
have at least 2 people that want to rent bikes.
Mhm.
Yeah, I found a shop in Nashville that we'll just rent them there. I have to come through Nashville anyway to get to Jackson.
Oh,
So
perfect.
we'll pick those up the day before and bring them down with us. And then when we get back to Nashville, we can just drop them off.
So a few of us though are going to be shipping our bikes on bike flights. So maybe we ship it to Nashville and then you pick it up.
I
And
would
if-
prefer to give that business to the bike shop in Ridgeland, and I can still
Okay,
pick them up
perfect.
for you. I can-
Okay, perfect. We
But
can do that.
the Ridgeland shop, I really like them, and they've done a lot for me in the past, so I like to keep giving them the business.
Mhm.
And what is the cost usually approximately for them to put together? Good question.
Yeah, so that's I have to look up their rate again, but it'll be between 75 and 90
Got it.
to accept the bike and get it ready for you. So they'll put it together and give it a quick tune up for you.
Okay, and then if you have a bike shop in Nashville, we'll drop off to ship it back home.
That's
Let
correct.
us know. Or maybe we'll put it on the airline because we're coming home. It's not as big of a deal, but we'll figure it
Yeah,
out. Okay.
that could be your choice.
Okay.
I send out a information packet to the group. It'll probably be in the December timeframe, and it'll tell you the name and address and contacts for the bike shops and how to ship it there, what to do for that. If you're bringing your bike on the plane, how we make that work, or how you make that work. And yeah, so that'll be clear. You'll have a listing for all the hotels, all the phone numbers of all the places that we're going to stay, and that'll happen as soon as I start booking them. And yeah, there's a lot of information there about weather, about what to pack, make
Oh,
sure you
great.
have. You do want to something for rain, but you don't want it really heavy, but you want something for rain.
What do you think of the company? I have the jacket Shower Pass.
Yeah, that's I have one Shower Pass jacket. I find it a little too warm for me.
Heavy? Okay, okay.
Now they have a wind shell that actually is pretty good, and it's water resistant. What I find when it rains down there is I don't need anything below my waist other than what I'm wearing, and no long. I don't need anything long down below, and I just have a wind shell jacket I wear up top to keep the heavy rain off. And if it's just sprinkling, I just ride through it because otherwise
Okay.
I get too hot.
Okay, thanks.
Hmm.
I did have one more question, Arlen. So the hotels, a few of us are like Bonvoy Marriott members. If we have an option, is that an option? Not to be picky, but I'm just gonna put it out there.
So the first hotel in Ridgeland is a Marriott. It's a Town Place Suites. That's a Marriott. I think I got a Marriott in Muscle Shoals. I'm not sure, but yeah, I kind of looked at those. And I can't remember who I had the conversation with about hotels.
Maybe MJ.
Maybe me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so I
possibly me.
decided like, oh yeah, so we want to go around that level. So I tried to as much as possible. I think the hotel in Natchez is either going to be I don't remember. It's either a Best Western Plus, which is a really nice hotel. I've stayed there many times. And then there's I think a Hilton Garden Inn down there too. And they're near the visitor center, which is good for us to go check out. So, and so as much as I could, I included those.
Yeah, I mean, location takes priority of the brand name. Like if we need to be somewhere, I'd rather, stay in a Hilton if we got to be closer to town or whatever. I'm just putting it out there if we have options.
Yeah.
I know they're all.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah, and if depending on our group size, there's a nice B&B down in Natchez, which would be really cool to stay at too.
that would
But
be
they have a very limited number of beds.
Oh,
Yeah.
I know they have enough for 8. I'm not sure much more than that. So depending on what we get, we can just choose what's the best place for us. And I know we were talking about some people wanting to stay in Nashville for a few days, and some people may want to go home right away. So I can choose a hotel both in Nashville and near the airport, and we can drop people off at 2 different locations, but only 2 different locations when we're done.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, and I mean, we could always just, Uber or whatever.
Rent
but
a
I think-
car.
yes,
Yeah,
you can. Yes, you can.
I
yeah.
think just Nashville, most of us will probably stay downtown for at least a night
Okay.
yeah.
or
All
somewhere in
right.
the fun area.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that would be Nashville, not the airport.
Yes, definitely.
So I think when you're looking at hotels down in Nashville, you're looking at probably at least 300 a night in that area.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll book early.
I'll find some choices and probably email them to you, and you can decide, yeah, this one looks good. So that hotel is not included in the price because that's the end of
Yeah.
the trip hotel. Okay, and
Mhm.
and neither is the one in Ridgeland for what I call day 0. That
Okay.
one, but I will block rooms there for everybody. You would
Okay.
come in, pay for what you wanted. check in and pay for it, and then we're good to go from there.
Okay.
And we actually will be coming back there as one of our overnights, so we'll be in that hotel twice.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's what I was thinking from the itinerary. I was like, I think we're in the hotel 2 nights. So day 0, you're in the hotel, and then day 1, you're in the hotel.
Mhm.
Day 0, we're in Ridgeland, and then
Day 3, we're back in Ridgeland.
day 3, we're back in Ridgeland.
Mhm.
1, 2, 3.
That's why I'm getting
1 and 3.
confused. Okay. Okay.
I've got a question. I don't think I'll need more than a duffel bag, but is there any kind of restrictions on the size of luggage or quantity?
50 pounds would be the good a good limit for weight. And yes, our group is small enough where it won't matter how many you bring.
Okay.
What about laundry?
Yes,
Don't have to pack 7 kits.
we have at least a laundry at 3 of the hotels.
Perfect.
So,
Okay.
well, there's one at day 1, but you won't need that one. But again, on day 3, we'll be back there, and they definitely have a laundry there.
Mhm.
And then when we're in Tupelo and Muscle Shoals, so days 3, 5, and 6 minimum. 3, 5, and 6.
Perfect.
Yeah, so I wouldn't bring more than 3 days of clothes at the most.
Yeah.
At the most.
Okay.
Duffel
like
bag,
a-
Wally. That's impressive.
I
Like
always
3
sorry?
kits.
go
3
ahead.
kits.
Yeah, I mean, they dry so quickly too. I mean, when I went to San Francisco to San Diego, I just did it in the shower and then it just dried overnight. It's fine.
Yeah,
You know,
not in that area.
Oh, really? Oh,
Yeah, the
okay.
humidity is too high. So
Oh,
I always recommend 3. And
3.
I actually have a clothesline hung up in my van. So you can, if they didn't dry quite right in the hotel, if you were hanging them, you can hang them up in the van for the day. And then
Yeah.
they can get really hot and humid.
Okay.
But that seems to work too. The humidity, will pretty much be at least 60%.
Wow. Okay.
Yep.
Nice.
Yeah, but it's
harder to dry it.
it's been like 80% here,
Well, that's in Florida.
like for months.
Well, it's
You're
been 80. It's been 80% here in San Diego in the morning time. So
Yeah, but it hasn't been 95 degrees in
it
the
has
morning.
not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's those 95-degree, 90-day humidities that are tough.
Wow.
Yeah. Like the heat index is 108.
That's right. And I had a couple of those not too long ago here.
Well, you'll be all prepared, MJ.
No, I'm anyway. I'm having a hard
Hey.
time with that.
Arlen, what do you need for the people that need bike rentals? Just their size? What do you, I mean, what's the,
I'll send a link for them.
okay.
They just, at some point they'll tell me they need a rental, and I'll give them a link to the shop page that they booked the rental with.
Okay.
And
Got
then we're good there.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't have anything else. Anybody else?
No, it's really helpful.
No, it sounds like a fun trip.
It should be
Yeah.
a lot of fun. It's great riding. So a little bit about the Trace, I'll tell you again. So unless you're around Tupelo and Ridgeland, there's no commercial traffic on the Trace. It is a part of the national park system. The speed limit is sometimes 45, but usually less. There is no shoulder, but it's well signed of riders take your lane. You must have lights front and back, and they will stop you and fine you if you don't. They're pretty strict about that, and it's really helped the drivers, I think, have a better appreciation for the riders that are on the Trace, and I think that's why they don't tolerate them when they're not on the Trace. So when you're around Tupelo and Ridgeland. When you're around Ridgeland, they don't even allow you to be on the trace. They give you an alternate bike route, a bike path to ride, which is fine. And then when you're around Tupelo, it's just around rush hour that gets to be pretty iffy. I think it's still safe. Cars give you the space. There's just more of them. And I think on a typical day where that's not the weekend, then I think you will only see a car every maybe couple minutes, maybe 5 minutes, sometimes 10. There'll just be no cars. Yeah, so it's pretty comfortable riding, but there are rules to follow, and it is well marked. There's a couple of locals who in the past lost their spouse on bicycle getting hit by a car, and they've really pushed the Park Service to make it super safe and patrolled, and they do a really great job of it. But you know, they set the rule standard pretty high. We do give you a reflective triangle. We ask you to wear either around your waist or on the back of your bike. That gives you a little bit more visibility. They don't really like people that they really don't want people wearing dark cycling clothes. They want you to be as light as possible. So don't forget, you're riding in a green canopy, so you want to be able to stand out from that green canopy. And that reflective triangle plus your lights on the front and back are usually adequate to make that happen. Okay.
Perfect. Thank you for taking the time.
Hey, it's my
Thank
pleasure.
you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, you're welcome. I'm looking forward to riding with all of you.
Yeah, all right.
Arlen,
wait a
just one more thing.
Yep.
Just if you can send MJ the link to this video and the deposit, that would be great.
That's what
And
I'll do.
we'll let the rest of the group know when you
Okay.
get a chance.
Yep, I'm going to do that right away. Okay.
Okay.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you
Nice
so
to
Nice
much.
to meet you
Thanks,
all.
guys.
We'll see you.
Yeah, bye.
Appreciate it. All
Okay.
right. Bye.
See ya. Bye, guys.